The opening shot of this film may look plain, endless, and barren to the eye, but it is in fact teeming with life. Life adapted for survival, where camouflage is an art, and each revelation a choice, a dramatic display. This is the land where the cheetah once ruled, where now leopards, wolves, jackals, foxes, and hyenas roam. Referred to as the prairies in America, pampas in South America, steppes in Eurasia, and the great savannas in Africa. These vast grassland ecosystems are also native to India. It is a home to over 350 species of birds, 25 species of mammals, including the Indian grey wolf, Indian striped hyena, Indian Bengal fox, 40 species of reptiles, 10 species of amphibians, 206 endemic plants, of which 17 are threatened species, and a wide variety of grass that nurtures us and nourishes us. The arrival of the British saw a shift in perception of these unique ecosystems. Driven by their need for timber and revenue, forests were valued, while tree-less landscapes like these were deemed unproductive wastelands.
One of the unfortunate legacies of the British colonial rule in India was that they imagined all of India as being forested landscapes, and that anything that was not forested was then degraded. So unfortunately, they considered most of the savanna, natural savanna grasslands in India to be not important from a forestry perspective. There's a reason to call it the correct name, because by calling it a forest, you assume that there should be trees in it, because that's what people's imagination of a forest is. So if you don't see trees, then it's degraded. These areas occur in a climatic zone that never naturally supported forests. And some of these areas have been this way for millions of years. They're not new.
The common belief is that forests are great at storing carbon. But forests store carbon mostly in above-ground biomass, such as leaves and woody stems. One wildfire can prove devastating, releasing all the stored carbon back into the atmosphere. In contrast, the grasslands store 81% of their carbon below the ground. The carbon fixed below ground remains in the roots and soil even during fires, making grassland ecosystems more efficient as a carbon sink.
Likewise, when you have fires and you have the entire tree burn up, you lose enormous amounts of that stored carbon that was in your mind. It's immediately being lost. In contrast, when a fire runs through a grassland, it only removes the biomass on top, whereas most of that stored carbon is beneath, in the soil, where it is safe.
Grasslands have been a source of livelihood for millions of livestock and pastoralists for thousands of years now. It is estimated that 53% of India's milk and 77% of India's meat production comes from extensive pastoralism. The pastoralists are great breeders, contributing to the vast genetic pool of cattle.
India has a lot of groups of people whose cultures are closely associated with pastoralism, and since centuries they have identified and conserved indigenous breeds of cattle and livestock, which are adapted to local climatic conditions and are an important component of biological diversity. And a lot of meat and milk production in India actually comes from such ecosystems. And pastoralism is, because it does not rely on year-round intensive use of savannas, it is actually compatible with biodiversity, and there is a lot of scope and potential in aligning goals of pastoralism and biodiversity conservation.
We need to recognize that the pastures in Maharashtra are a common resource. The need of the hour is to co-manage these resources with efficient policy between the herders governmental and non-governmental organizations. Pastoralism should be incentivized as the agriculture is. Also, their migration routes need to be protected.
We admire the savanna grasslands of Africa, but refer to the savannas of the Deccan Plateau as degraded. We appreciate the Grand Canyon, but dismiss the beautiful ravines of Chambal. We label the Shola grasslands of Western Ghats, the Great Thar Desert, the flood plains of Terai, and the cold deserts of Ladakh as wastelands. The reintroduction of the celebrity cheetah to this landscape may temporarily shift the focus back to grasslands. But there needs to be changes in policy that will translate to meaningful on-ground action. It is time to recalibrate our perceptions of these unique and thriving ecosystems. The lives of endangered species and the livelihoods of millions of people depend on us shedding this historically and ecologically inaccurate perception of these unique ecosystems.